Hey friends, over the next 12 weeks, we're going to work on learning to play our uke in all 12 major keys. Each week we're going to go over the scale as well as the chords used in each key so that we can familiarize ourselves with it and not be intimidated when we find a piece of music that might be in a key that's possibly not C or G, which we all love to play in. But we might need to adjust for our vocal range. We might be playing with another group where we need different keys. It's nice to have all of these chords under our fingers already before we start so that we're not struggling to figure things out. So over the next 12 weeks, let's dive into all of our 12 major keys. And the best part is I'm going to put the worksheets on my Patreon as public posts so that everybody can get these exercises and start working on this together regardless of whether you subscribe or not. So we're starting off in the key of C major. Now, if you've been following my lessons, we've done a lot of work in the key of C major. We've gone over the scale as well as building chord scales in C major, and I'm going to link to all of that in the comments, but we're also going to go over it briefly here. So to play our C major scale, we're going to be starting on our open C string, and our next note is going to be a D on the 2nd fret, and then we'll play an E, which will be our next open string, F on the 1st fret with our 1st finger, and then the G we can play on either our open G if you're in reentrant tuning, or on the 3rd fret if you happen to be tuned to low G, and then we'll be going up to our A, our B on the 2nd fret of our A string, and then our C right next to it on the 3rd fret of our A string. So let's play that together. And we'll do it nice and slowly, half notes, so 2 beats a piece, so we really figure out where all these notes are located on our fingerboard. So sound a little bit something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and back down. B, A, G, F, E, D, C. So take a couple days to familiarize yourself with this scale. You want to hear the scale itself in your head as well as be very comfortable with the fingers before we move on to the next section, which is learning our arpeggios. What an arpeggio is a broken chord. It's taking the notes that comprise, say, our C major chord and playing each of them individually. And this will let our ear hear better and conceptualize what chords really sound like and how they function in relation to the scale as opposed to just strumming through them. So what we're going to do is walk up through all of our chords. We'll start our C major chord, and then we'll go to D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, then we have a B diminished chord, and then we'll end on C. So if you're unfamiliar with how to build chords, I'm going to link in the comments to my triad lessons on how to build these chords so that you can get yourself started with these and familiarize yourself with the concept before you go into the exercise that's written on the page. But let me play this broken chord exercise for you nice and slowly. It's going to sound like this. So in there you can hear the harmonic movement or hear all of the chords and how that they are placed. Now after that we'll move on to strumming the chords themselves. Even in most songs we will use probably only 3 or 4 chords. It's important to know all 7 chords so that we have them under our fingertips should we need them. And you'll see that as we move through all of our major keys that you'll see many of these same chords popping up again and again. So if you start learning week by week, you'll find by week 5 or 6 that you already know the majority of these voicings, that they just need to be moved around a little bit over the fingerboard. So in the key of C, we're going to go up diatonically. So we're going to start on a C major chord, which you probably know. It's all open strings and then the 3rd fret of your A string. Much like that. And then we're going to play a D minor chord. Our 2 chord, or the 2nd chord in the scale, is always going to be minor. And you'll see this consistent throughout all of the keys that we use. A D minor will be 2, 2, 1, open. So our D minor chord. And then moving on to our E minor chord, or the 3 chord. Again, the 3 chord is always going to be minor. We're going to voice that open, 4, 3, 2. So so you can strum through that. And then we have an F major chord, one that you likely already know. Our 4 chord will always be major. 2, open, 1, 3. Or you can play the A string open. It's up to you. Either works just fine. Moving on to a G major chord, another one you're likely familiar with. Open 2, 3, 2. And then we have an A minor chord. So this will be 2, open, open, 3. And then our B diminished chord is going to look very much like our G 7th chord, except we're not going to play the G string on this. So we're going to skip the G, and it will be 2, 1, 2. And then we'll resolve to C. So you can play through all of these chords just to see how the scale sounds with the triads stacked on top of it and get your ear used to how each of the scale degrees sound when they create a chord. So you can play C, D minor, E minor, F, G, A minor, B diminished, and then move on to C. Now for each of these weeks as we go along, we're going to have a simple song at the end that is in the key that we're using. Today we're going to use the old folk tune, Merrily We Roll Along, which you're likely familiar with. It only utilizes 3 chords, so it's nice and easy, but I've written out both the melody and the chords down below. So please grab that song sheet and get working on these. And next week we're going to move on to the key of G major and learn all of these exercises in that key, as well as a new song. So in 12 weeks, we're going to follow along and we'll have all 12 keys under our fingers. I'll see y'all next week.